Hello to anybody watching, we are back with another true crime video. Now, I make any excuse in the world not to make these videos, even though I love making them. I just decide every day and put them off, even though I love making them. So today's was going to be my hair, so that's why it's like this. It's just a riot, but like, as in, it's not because I've slicked it back and just like put it up, but this isn't how I normally wear my hair, so I feel like people that know me are like, why are you wearing your hair like that? But just need to stop making excuses and start making these videos because we don't care what I look like. We just want to hear the true crime story. So let's get into it. Today's case is one that I followed online from, I'm not going to say the beginning, but I followed it for a very, very long time, and I only like just found out like the end, like the kind of end result. I don't want to call it result, but you know what I mean, like I only found out recently what happened because I just kind of dipped, like I'd mind I was following it on TikTok and it kind of dipped off my radar, and then the other day I watched a video which I really recommend everyone goes watch. It's going to be a lot better than this one, but please watch this one too, of Hayley Reese talking about this, and I was like, oh my god, yeah, I forgot about this case, and oh my god. So let's get into this. So this is the Gabby Petito case. Now this one for me is really personally sad because she was my age, born the same year as me, and was also a Pisces. So our birthdays are so close to each other. You know, it just puts it into perspective, like the things I worry about, like not liking the way I look, and literally this girl's had her whole life ripped apart from her. You know what I mean? It's like, it puts things into context. So she was born March 19th, 1999, making her a Pisces, like I said. So I'm literally March 13th, so we were so close in age. So close in age. She was described very Pisces fashion as beautiful, artistic, creative, kind and loving. She just really was like a salt of the earth person. You know that cliche saying of the smile that could light up the room. But honestly, you see photos of this girl, she is gorgeous. Palms here. Absolutely gorgeous. Like 100%. It's one of those ones where, you know, you hear it about everyone, but for her, you can tell it really was true. She's a gorgeous, like, great energy. Again, you get that just from like her photos online and her presence online. And then everyone loved her, and she had a really close knit family, which is obviously always so nice to hear. And then she was always grown up like smiling. She had a really infectious laugh, and she was just a busy, happy girl with lots of friends. And she loved art and like outdoors, and that's where like the kind of traveling comes into play. Her parents did end up separating, but literally all of her step parents and her biological parents all loved her to equal amounts, to the point where like it's hard to remember that, like when you're watching like a set of parents, you know what I mean, like if you're watching her dad with her stepmom talk about her, you forget that like it's not her mum, you know what I mean. So like all of her step parents loved her so passionately, which again, you don't, like, I know a lot of people that have like divorced parents, and they don't have the easiest relationship with their step parents. They get along with them, but they're not as close as they are to their biological parents. But this didn't seem the case in this one. Like, they seemed genuinely close to both of their step-parents, which is so nice to hear as well. And we're going to get into their family as well, because they just seem like amazing people. But at the minute, we're just doing kind of upbringing, and they just had unconditional love from all their family, regardless of the fact that their parents separated. And this is where we kind of get to where Brian comes into the story. So his name is Brian Laundrie. He is born November 18th, 1997, making him a Scorpio. Just putting that out there. The vibes. Everyone in my personal life knows my opinion of Scorpios. Sorry Vic, I love you, you are the exception. But yeah, just putting that out there. They meet in high school, but they didn't date then, but that's when they met. They got together after high school. They had a lot in common. They liked outdoors, they liked adventuring, and that in 2019 is when they got together and kind of started dating. And they were seen for everyone outdoor looking in to be the perfect couple. As always, internet can paint a wonderful picture of everything, but they did seem like a really genuinely happy, perfect couple. Post videos, again, that's what I'm saying, like online, it's very easy to seem like the perfect couple. And they were posting these videos online, and not people were buying it, you know what I mean, but people really thought that they were perfect for each other. But in real life, a lot of people did not like Brian. Brian was described to be very hot-headed and very opinionated, just one of those guys that like would argue, you know what I mean, not be afraid to that type of person. And not that that's a bad thing, you can argue your case in life, but it was hot-headed to the point that people noticed it, and that was like literally an attribute that was put with him as a person. As well said that in their relationship they argued a lot as well, and that it was like above the normal amount of arguing, because obviously everyone and their partners argue. I think it's unhealthy if you don't argue, but people noted that it was an unhealthy amount, and it was about things that seemed unreasonable, you know what I mean, that type of like, not like, you know, if you go, you can go through a phase with your partner of having like a lot of arguments, but you'd like to think that they are coming from somewhere, you know what I mean, they're not unreasonable arguments. Whereas if you're arguing all the time over stuff that shouldn't really be something you argue about, that's when it's like red flag, like what is going on. And Gabby's best friend did note as well that Brian was an extremely jealous and controlling person, to the point where it was like weird, as in they told their mum how controlling they were. For me, I don't really tell my mum and dad things like that, but if I did, it would be because it was that extremely bad, you know what I mean? And I think a lot of people are like that, like you wouldn't want your mum and dad to think that the people you're hanging about with are not the best people. So if I'm telling my mum and dad that I am like, the person's exceptionally bad, like the people in my life I've told my parents about that I need to be in their company, I don't really like them, they're exceptionally bad, you know what I mean? So this girl, Gabby's best friend, had told their mum about it, and it's how notable it was. Gabby's parents did say that he was like polite and quiet, and that like from their point of view he seemed good for their daughter, and he was always very polite. They really hand on heart believed that their daughter was safe with him, and I think that's what is so heartbreaking about this case. They got that gut instinct wrong, must be so heartbreaking, and that is the point of where we just don't know what goes on behind closed doors. And I think the thing I'm learning, like now, like the same age as Gabby would have been, like I think I'm learning that it's really important that you tell your friends the good, the bad, the ugly in your relationships, because they should know what's going on. Obviously hindsight's 2020 with these things, like you can't put blame on anybody, and I'm not doing that, but I think if we all consciously be as open and honest as we can be, these things might happen less. I don't know, you know what I mean? So yeah, as mentioned, like Gabby, Brian loved outdoors. He was very passionate about being like minimalistic, and they both as well were very environmentally like conscious, and like they really advocated for environmental issues. My vocabulary just actually went out the window there. But yeah, so he was very, very passionate about these things, in particular like the minimalism thing. So this is where we kind of get to the van life beginning. So, which is my dream, I would love to do this. They get a van, they do it up, and they begin to travel. And Gabby vlogged it all. She was really, really good, by the way, as well, just to note. And in 2020, that's when they converted that van and started doing that like traveling, and started taking all these videos and photos of it. And in July 2nd of 2020, they posted on Instagram that they got engaged. This is when they announced their engagement, and obviously everyone online was really buzzing for them. I'm sure their friends and family were really excited for them as well, regardless of like having maybe not the best opinion of Brian, like their friends anyway. And then they started a vlog channel called Nomadic Static, and yeah, things were going good as far as everyone could tell. And they planned a 4-month trip across national parks in America. And Gabby's parents were nervous about this, as anyone's parents would be. Like, I mean, when my sister went travelling, my parents were very, very nervous. But they trusted Brian. Like I said, they absolutely trusted Brian with their daughter, and their daughter with Brian, and knew that they were going to be in safe hands together. And they had like a kind of rules of like, be safe, like keep in contact. One of their parents as well had said like, don't trust everyone that you meet, which I think is also a testament to obviously how maybe trusting and nice Gabby was as a person, because I don't know if that would be advice my parents would give me, because I don't think I'm a very trusting person of people. So it just is another wee testament to her, obviously a really kind and trusting personality. And Gabby and their mum would talk all the time. They would check in almost every single day. And this is the thing I think is super important about this, because I think the switched onness of Gabby's parents really helped in this case. So like I said, they'd be uploading things like consistently on Instagram and YouTube while they were away. It looked like such a gorgeous trip, and it really did. Like, when you see footage of it, you're gonna think this isn't the story that we're talking about. Sudden change of perspective for us, the people that know the whole story. But on August 12th, there is a 911 call saying that people on the call are saying that they've seen a male hitting a female, and they describe the van, and it's like being logged as like a domestic dispute, and that the couple were running up and down the, I wrote sidewalk, that's obviously what I've read on this report, but like the road, basically they were running up and down the side of the road, and so that's why this person has felt so concerned for them they phoned 911. And the police camera footage for this is wild. This is where I switched onto this case, because I saw it on TikTok and I was like, oh my god, something is not right here, like really, really not right. They are reporting to the case with information they've got of that somebody thinks they've seen a man hit a woman, and that there's a domestic dispute, and they're running around the road. So obviously it's Gabby, it is Brian that has been reportedly hit Gabby. That is what this person said they seen. So whether that is true or not, that's what has been reported at the beginning. The video footage, like I said, it's really easily accessible on TikTok and YouTube or whatever. It's so hard to watch. Gabby is hysterically upset, like hysterically upset, shaking, crying. She is saying that they were just fighting mutually, like to begin with. She's saying that it was just like an argument that's got out of hand. She's apologising. She won't stop apologising as well. Like, she is so apologetic to the police, which you would be, like, you don't want things like this to happen in your life. And she's trying to explain what happened, but she's really upset, like short of breath, and clearly really, really anxious about everything. Is that they were talking and she was anxious and she distracted him from driving, and she blames everything on the fact she's got OCD, and that she was feeling really overwhelmed and like frustrated, and that was why she was kind of taking it out on Brian, and this is what the argument started from, which I can believe that absolutely would happen. I've got people in my life that have OCD, and I'm not diagnosed with anything, but I know that I personally get very, very frustrated and agitated when things aren't going my way, in the sense of the way I planned them for the day and stuff like that. It's very easily to get frustrated and overwhelmed by stuff like that. So I do believe that can cause arguments 100%. So that is a believable story, that part. And then basically, however it happens, she ends up out of the car and he won't let her back in. So that's why she gets even more hysterical, because obviously if you're already upset and your partner locks you out of your van that is actually your house as well, and you've got nowhere to like go and calm down in a safe environment, that would be so overwhelming, like, obviously. And he's saying, you need to calm down, I'm not letting you back in the van until you calm down, which obviously in a normal situation of if someone was being the aggressive in the way that this report is going, that is a smart thing to do if you are worried for your safety, but we'll just get into this. So that's Gabby at this minute. She is hysterical, she's crying, she's apologising, trying to explain what's happened, but she's very, very upset. Brian, on the other hand, is calm, making jokes, like acting like this is a normal day for him. He is not in any way seeming upset or even nervous about the fact he's having to deal with the police. Like, he is cool as a cucumber. He's just like, yeah, haha, like literally making jokes, telling what's happened, but making jokes. And that, for me, when I saw the footage, I was like, because even if he isn't upset because it's all got out of hand and it shouldn't have been a police matter, you still think you'd be a bit anxious, especially because it's going down as like a domestic dispute, potentially going to be domestic violence. I would be absolutely terrified, especially if I was a man, because obviously predominantly these things are, the men do not come out in a favourable light, you know what I mean? So I would be so nervous, even if I'd done nothing wrong, I would be so nervous. Like, and the way he's acting is just bizarre. He is claiming that he's innocent. He's trying to paint her like she was just an irrational woman, just really emotional, all that type of bullshit that goes on. Really, it's so hard because situations like this must be so hard for the police, because Gabby is hysterically crying, saying that she doesn't want to be separated from him. Like, hysterically crying, going, please. Because they start to volunteer the idea of, like, they'll be separated for the evening because they're not going to press charges on each other. That's kind of what we've established, that, like, Gabby doesn't want to press charges on him, he doesn't want to press charges against her. But the police kind of decide, okay, we should separate you for the night though, regardless, just so you can both calm down, stay in a hotel, and then you can go on your way from then on. And Gabby's explaining she doesn't want to do that, she has anxiety and she doesn't want to be separated, which is exactly what I would do in that situation. I would, no chance would I want to be by myself in a strange place I don't know, in a hotel I don't know, by myself. I wouldn't want that either. So it must be so hard for the police to make that decision, especially when they were all the age of adults, do you know what I mean? So I would not want to be the one to make that decision in that moment. There is very visible bruising and marks on Gabby's face, by the way, in these videos, and the police, well, it's not super visible in videos, but the police are speaking about it. And basically she's like, oh, I'm not sure what happened, like, I don't remember what happened, but she's clearly got something on her face and the police are talking about it, and she's very unsure of how it happened. She says that she hit Brian, and she slapped him, and that he grabbed her, and he did hit her back. He was like grabbing her face. He did not punch her, but that's how then she kind of explains this bruising of, like, he was like grabbing her face. But she does stress that she hit him, and that he only hit her back because she hit him, which again, that's so hard to argue. Like, the police are going to be like, well, you're admitting that you hit him and he hit you back, obviously not good, but if you're admitting to be the aggressor in these situations, it's very difficult for the police to then obviously sympathise with you. So, like I said, in this footage, the police are calling Gabby the primary aggressor because that's the only information they've got. Police officers then kind of go to their van and they're like talking about it, which, again, crazy. Like, they're talking about it the way I would talk about an issue I had in work with my colleague, but it's crazy that theirs are just so obviously heightened. But they're talking about being like, oh, it's your call, like, what do you think? And basically one of the police officers is really like weighing up the gravity of the decision, and I'm sure he must be beating himself up now. And it actually does make me so sad because this could have been prevented potentially, but he's weighing up the gravity of the situation, of the fact that he literally says on camera, like, he knows that, and this is paraphrasing, too many times women that are at risk want to go back to the abuser. They just want to go back, they don't want to, like, charge them, they don't want them to go to jail, and then when they go back something worse happens and they end up killed. Like, literally that's what he says. And then he also says, like, he doesn't have a crystal ball though, so he doesn't know if that is going to be true for this example, or if this is going to be just a case of a genuine argument that's got a bit out of hand and they're going to be fine and they're going to live happily ever after. And so I think that's where hindsight's 2020, and I'm just so glad I don't have a job that I need to make decisions like that. And we go back to Gabby once they've had that conversation with each other, and they try and get to, like, the main root of what her intentions were when she was hitting Brian. Like, I think they ask her, like, did you intend to physically hurt him or cause him, like, bodily harm? And they, like, make a point to, like, don't answer this quickly, answer it in your own time, blah blah blah, just think about it and answer. And she obviously says no, and then she says she was just trying to get him to stop telling her to calm down. Like, that's what she said. She's like, I just wanted him to stop telling me to calm down, that's why she's done it. So they're happy with the fact that they don't think that Gabby's trying to pure harm him. We are then separated for the evening, but no further action was taken. And it would be hard when there's someone so hysterically crying, not wanting to be separated from their partner, to go against their word, even when in this situation she was being classified as a primary aggressor. Oh, it's just a minefield. But that was what I saw first. That was how I got into this case. Okay, so this is when we get into very, like, timeliney events of how things develop in this case. So there's gonna be a lot of dates flying around, basically, is what I'm saying. So on August 17th, Brian flies home to get some more belongings and to close the storage unit I believe that they had together, but it could have just been his, not sure. But yeah, that's what he's doing on August 17th. And then on August 19th, they post a video on YouTube called Van Life, and that's posted, it goes up. And then on August 21st, Gabby is FaceTiming her dad. So this is all obviously after this event. And she's FaceTiming her dad, talking away, so we know that they're in contact. And then on August 23rd, Brian returns. On August 25th, Gabby speaks to her mum. I think they phone, and they were just updating their mum on what their plans were, where they were heading next. And their mum said that it was just a normal conversation. She was really excited for them, was happy to be updated on their plans, and also they posted on Instagram. So yeah, so that was on August 25th. That was the last day the mum had like vocal conversation with them on the call. Then on August 27th, Gabby's mum gets a text saying, "Can you help? Stan, I just keep getting his voicemail and missed calls." And Stan is Gabby's grandpa. And their mum immediately was like, that is so weird that Gabby is calling their grandpa Stan. They never, ever, ever called them Stan. Like, I don't know what their name for their grandpa would be. Like, obviously, I would say grandpa. But whatever they normally called their grandpa, it wasn't Stan. They wouldn't use their name. So their mum was like, that is so weird that they've used their name. And on August 30th, they get a text saying, no service in Yosemite. Which was weird because she was meant to be going to Yellowstone. So her mum was like, weird that we're now at Yosemite. Why are we there when you told me you were going somewhere different? So that was like obviously the last phone call my mum had. They're now in a different place from where they said they were going, but they again were just like, okay, they're going somewhere else. But they were starting to get significantly more worried now because it was weird, and it was very unlike Gabby to have such bad communication with them. August 27th, that the couple were seen in public. And obviously this is what we know now, but like at the time their mum and dad didn't know this. And in that described sighting, Brian was described to be very aggravated and aggressive towards Gabby. Apparently Gabby was very sad and crying, and they were arguing with each other, and he was also kind of arguing with like the servers for where they were. I think it was like in a wee diner. The people that seen them even commented being like, I think they say something like, oh, he's creeping me out or something like that, something quite fried. So that's like, again, like, it's another situation where it's like the viewing of them has been so notable that somebody's remembered that. Because you think about the amount of people you see out and about in your day and you would never recall seeing them, but that was so memorable for the people that saw them that they were like, that's literally them when this all came out. And Gabby's family are now so concerned to the point where they reach out to Brian and Brian's family to be like, what's happening? Like, have you heard from them? Like, we're not getting good contact with them now, but they just had no response. So this is now 10 days with no contact. So quite rightly so, they report Gabby missing. And that must have been really stressful because they could have been a false alarm. Like, people do go travelling and don't manage to stay in good contact, so they do have bad signal, but I'm glad that they reported her missing. And then this is where, when the investigation starts of the missing persons report, obviously they immediately start looking for the van, they immediately start looking for Brian, and obviously Gabby. And this is where we discover that Gabby's missing. Brian, not so much, not missing. He went home. He was home. He had Gabby's van and he was home. Can you actually even imagine? He went home September 1st. Can you actually imagine you've just reported your daughter missing? Obviously then worried as well for your like daughter's partner, and he's fine. He's just at home chilling. So weird. So weird. And also when this investigation started, he immediately got a lawyer. Immediately. No contact with Gabby's family, no nothing, immediately got a lawyer. Which again, like, obviously is the right thing to do when something like this is going on. Get a lawyer, absolutely. But to not be in contact with your partner's family, who in theory you are worried about them, even if something bad's happened on that trip and they fell out, they broke up, whatever. You don't want anyone to die or be missing and hurt somewhere. Why are you not even just letting their parents know, oh, we fell out, I took the van, I'm home? Very suspect. And this is where we're going to start to really see the love and affection that everyone had in Gabby's life for them, because their parents were just so present and switched on and vocal trying to find Gabby. And then during this time, obviously, Brian is #1 person of interest. At that point, they couldn't make him a suspect, but he was a person of interest, so they were watching his house basically. And then on September 17th, we get a call from Brian's parents reporting Brian missing. But the police have been watching his house all this time. So they're like, he's missing? No, he's not. Like, we've been watching the house, we would have seen him come and go. So they're very confused. Basically saying that call that on September 13th, Brian went for a hike and he hasn't returned. They knew he was going for the hike, but he never actually came back. And again, at this point, we're like, how did he leave and the police missed him when they're watching the house? And this is where I'm like, this is ridiculous. They mistook Brian for Brian's mum. That's what happened. That's how he got out of the house. They mistook him for Brian's mum. Apparently. That's what I read. Which I think is crazy. But yeah, so now we're at the point where they're both missing separately. Like, she's been missing for a longer time, and obviously he's then gone from wherever she's been missing from and gone home, and now he's gone for a hike and he's missing. So bizarre. So bizarre. And obviously this is now, like, obviously worldwide news, as in, like, people in the UK, like, I knew about this case and I was just hoping that she'd be found. So obviously they were urging anybody that was travelling in these areas to look at photos they've got, look at videos they've got, just have a good think about who they saw. Did they see this van? Did they see this couple? When, where, why, what, how? You know what I mean? All that stuff. And this is where a family that's like also a travelling family in a van were going through their footage. And thinking about, like, where they'd been and who they'd seen, and they did actually recall seeing a van with Florida plates, and they noted it because they were also from Florida, and they really wanted to go and, like, say hi, because they were like, oh, what are the chances, we're both from Florida, we're both here, that's so fun. So they did actually want to go speak to the people that were in the van, but when they went, like, the lights were off and they didn't actually get to meet the people who were in it. So they must have, like, kind of thought back to that and go, oh, I think that's that van, we should look at this footage. And then, lo and behold, the footage is that van. So they now know that they've literally got concrete proof of the van being where they were. And they obviously gave all this information to the police. And on 19th of September, that is where they found human remains in that location that this family had found. And that's where you're like, wow, like, that's sheer luck that family saw all this news, checked their footage, found that, gave it to the police. Like, they followed all the correct procedures to then have these remains found. The autopsy was done, and it was then confirmed that it was Gabby's remains, which obviously is just so unbearably sad. And their family did believe, though, in that minute that, like, they'd found peace. Now that they had their remains, that they had found peace, which obviously is nice, that, like, they do feel comforted in that. But I actually can't even imagine, like, there's something so sad about, like, having all your hope and the fact that someone you love in your life is missing, but they'll only be missing, that you will find them, to then have remains found must just be so heartbreaking. And in that autopsy, it was confirmed that the cause of death was strangulation. So now, like, Brian's missing, but it's more of a manhunt type of missing. They are really extra looking for Brian. But the area that he hiked in was absolutely huge. So they had a big area to search. And also his parents were really not very present in looking for him, which again, dead notable because Gabby's parents were so present. It was very notable that his parents were very quiet about it all. And then on September 22nd, a warrant was issued for Brian's arrest, because they had finally got something concrete on him, and that was fraud. He had committed bank fraud by spending £1,000 on Gabby's bank card. So it was kind of good that they managed to escalate the situation by having that, like, warrant out for him, so it was now a manhunt type of thing. 20th October, human remains were found, a backpack plus a notebook, in the area that he was known to be hiking in, but the area that was found in was previously submerged in water, so that's kind of the thinking of why they couldn't find it to begin with. And the human remains were confirmed to be Brian, so he was pronounced dead. So obviously a really shocking turn of events. Got two really young people now, both dead. People are wanting to know what's happened, and Brian's death was confirmed to be suicide, and it was a single gunshot wound to the head. So obviously this left more questions than answers. For me, even at this point, it's very cut and dry what happened, but the only silver lining is that there was a notebook and obviously all of Brian's like digital footprints to look through for the police, so they did have a lot of stuff to kind of look through and get the answers that they wanted for Gabby's family, obviously for Brian's family as well. But we started going through all of that, and it is worth noting as well that when Brian's parents reported him missing, they did surrender all their guns, and they did note that one handgun was missing, so the clues all add up. But that was deliberately kept calm, keep calm and carry on. That was deliberately kept quiet from the public because the police knew it would cause mass panic, which I'm a bit like, why would they panic if he wasn't a killer? If he was just missing, why would they panic? But obviously everyone knew, like everyone, anyway. But yeah, it was kept quiet. It was kind of then released in this notebook that Brian had confessed to the murder of, well, he confessed to killing Gabby is what he confessed to. And he admitted as well that he used Gabby's credit cards, and he'd been sending texts to try and cover it up. I think as well, to add to my note that I've left, I think there was an Instagram post as well, because I've got a memory of the timelines not adding up with one of the posts she put. Like, it didn't make sense, the location that was on it for where they were going. I'm sure that happened as well. It could have just been a random TikTok I was watching, but I'm sure that happened as well. He did confirm that he acted alone. We don't know either that. We don't know whether he told his parents what he did, but people are very sceptical of all of that, basically. And the parents' culpability for kind of, what's it, like miscarriage of justice, like not kind of telling Brian to go straight to the police. But what happened behind closed doors, you don't know if Brian told them, so it's hard. But a lot of people really think that Brian's parents should have some like accountability for all that. I think there was like something that began happening, like a civil suit or something like that, but ended up not going ahead or something like that to do with it. And it is one of these things that you're like, yeah, it's just a hard one. Like, if you could prove they knew 100%, you can't, so what are you gonna do? Like, one of those ones. Brian's confession is crazy, so strap in. It's long, it doesn't make a lot of sense, and I am going to be reading it, and I'm reading it pretty much word for word, but there are bits of it that are like a bit unintelligible, so there are wee lines that I cropped out because there's no point in reading them, it don't make much sense. So this is technically paraphrasing, but it is from the best that I could find online of what it's said to have written, what it said that he had wrote. Is that right? I don't know. So Brian's confession read as follows. Gabby, I wish I was right at your side. I wish I could be talking to you right now. I'd been going through every memory we've made, getting even more excited for the future. I can't live without you. I've lost every day we could have spent together, every holiday. I loved you more than anything. I can't bear to look at our photos to recall great times because it's why I cannot go on. When I close my eyes, I think of laying on the roof of the van, falling asleep to the sight of a meteor shower at the Crystal Geyser. I will always love you. If you were reading Gab's journal, looking at the photos of our lives together, flipping through old cards, you wouldn't want to live a day without her. Knowing that every day you'll wake up without her, you wouldn't want to wake up. I'm sorry to everyone this will affect. Gabby was the love of my life, but I know adored by many. I'm so very sorry to her family because I love them. I'd consider her younger siblings my best friends. I am sorry to my family. This is a shock to them as well as a terrible grief. They loved as much, if not more than me. A new daughter to my mother, an aunt to my nephews. Please do not make this harder for them. So that's where I'm saying, like, it doesn't make much sense, but he's saying there obviously like Gabby was like his family to his family and vice versa. This occurred as an unexpected tragedy. Rushing back to our car, trying to cross the streams before it got too dark to see, too cold. I hear a splash and a scream. I could barely see. I couldn't find her for a moment. I shouted her name. I found her breathing heavily, gasping my name. She was freezing cold. We just came from the blazing hot national parks in Utah. The temperature had dropped to freezing and she was soaking wet. I carried her as far as I could down the stream towards the car, stumbling exhausted in shock when my knees buckled and I knew I couldn't safely carry her. I started a fire and spooned her as close to the heat. She was so thin and had already been freezing too long. I couldn't at the time realise that I shouldn't start a fire first, but I wanted her out of the cold back to the car. From where I started the fire, I had no idea how far the car might be. I knew it was across the creek. When I pulled Gabby out of the water, she couldn't tell me what hurt. She had a small bump on her forehead that eventually got larger. Her feet hurt, her wrist hurt, she was freezing, violently shaking. While carrying her, she continually made sounds of pain. Lying next to her, she said little, lapsing between violent shakes, gasping in pain, begging for an end to her pain. She would fall asleep and I would shake her awake, fearing she wouldn't close her eyes if she had a concussion. She would wake in pain, start the whole painful cycle again, well furious that I was the one waking her. She wouldn't let me try to cross the creek, worried that, like me, this fire would go out in her sleep and she'd freeze. I don't know the extent of Gabby's injuries, only that she was in extreme pain. I ended her life. I thought it was merciful. This is what she wanted, and I see now all the mistakes I've made. I panicked. I was in shock. But from the moment I decided, took away her pain, I knew I couldn't go on without her. I rushed home to spend any time I had left with my family. I wanted to drive north and let James or TJ kill me, but I wouldn't want them to spend time in jail over my mistake, even though I'm sure they would have liked to. I'm ending my life not because of fear of punishment, but rather because I can't stand to live another day without her. I've lost our whole future together. Every moment we could have cherished. I'm sorry for everyone's loss. Please do not make life harder for my family. They lost a son and a daughter. The most wonderful girl in the world. Gabby, I'm sorry. I have killed myself by this creek in the hopes that animals may tear me apart, that it may make some of her family happy. Please pick up all of my things. Gabby hated people who litter. Now that is obviously very, very sad. Very, very sad. Confession. Do I believe a word of it? No. No, I don't. I believe he loved her at some point. I believe he thinks he loved her. I don't believe the story. Even if she did get hurt or whatever, why on earth would you take that decision to put your partner out of their misery? Are you joking? Are you actually joking? That is bizarre. Like, actually bizarre. Like, and for him to have that type of thinking, even in a stressful situation, is crazy to me. Like, that is, you're not right in the head. If anybody doesn't have the natural instinct to get your partner help when something like that happens, you need to go to prison. You need to go get locked up. Like, what is going on? Like, that the first thing you do in these instances is get all the help you can. Yeah, okay, it's a terrible circumstance of maybe being stranded somewhere and something's going on, but just get them to wherever you can to get help. Like, do anything but literally kill them. Like, I feel like that's the bare minimum, to not literally kill your partner. Bare minimum. So even if something like his story happened, that she did get hurt out with his control, don't just kill people. That we don't, like, if you broke your leg hiking and you were probably going to starve to death because you couldn't get down, you wouldn't just want your pal to kill you or kill yourself. Like, you would want them to do everything they can to get you help. So it's the most bizarre story in reasoning. I thought it was merciful. Who are you to think it's merciful? Who are you? Like, literally, you don't make those decisions in this life. So yeah, and I feel like as well, the confession's very self-indulgent as well. Obviously it's nice he's saying like he doesn't want to make his family's life harder as well, but it is still giving woe as me, in my opinion. Yeah, it's very, very, very bizarre. And as well, I thought it was really odd that he mentions that she's so thin, because she is a petite person, but I just thought it was a weird thing to mention as well. Yeah, I don't, it's bizarre. Obviously it gives answers in the sense of he does admit to killing her, but I don't believe the story, so it doesn't give an answer to what actually happened. So that is something that obviously people need to live with the fact. If you don't believe his confession like I don't know the answer. But yeah, absolutely crazy. Yeah, what do we all think about that? I would really, really like to know that. Like I was saying, the kind of timeline for that for me was I saw that video on TikTok of the police report from when there was a domestic dispute. I saw that when Gabby was missing. So that was when I'd seen that, and that was kind of the timeline for me. I'd seen that. I'd then seen people talking about her Instagram posts not making sense. And then I'd heard that obviously her body had been found. And then that was it. I hadn't heard any of the end of it. So that for me was like crazy whirlwind of a story. Yeah, just so horrible. But I think for me, the biggest takeaway from this is just how amazing Gabby's family were during everything. Like, that is just exactly how you would want your family to act in this horrible circumstance. And they did actually start a foundation to help people dealing with domestic violence issues, to help missing people get, like, obviously to help families of missing people get the publicity that they got, because in that obviously there was a lot of discussion online of the fact that it got a lot of attention, whereas obviously we know there is crisis situations for like Indigenous women and stuff like that are missing, and the police just don't look into it. So I think this foundation that they've started is so important to help people that do not get the publicity that they should get when they are missing, help them get the funding and the resources that they don't get for whatever reason. And obviously as well, these things cost money as well, these resources, so it's a great foundation to help people get that support that they need during such stressful times. So I think, again, their family are just incredible people to find ways to keep helping after such a terrible loss. And yeah, what a crazy, horribly sad case. It's one of those ones that you're like, there's so many times where you can apply hindsight and go, oh, somebody shouldn't have let her go, or travelling, or the police shouldn't have let her go, or this should have happened. And it's just been one of those ones, and it's just so unbearably sad to think that she would be my age and yeah, like living her life and spreading like joy that she clearly did spread in her life. But I really do hope that her family find peace and they just continue to do the amazing work that they're doing. But yeah, let me know if there's any other cases you want me to cover and your thoughts on this case, and I will see you all in my next video.